Groovy English Podcast.
Hey there! Welcome back to Groovy English. I'm Chloe.
And I'm Aiden. We share real stories, useful tips, and everyday English to help you grow with confidence.
Wherever you are in your English learning journey, we're glad you're here.
If you're enjoying the podcast, feel free to like, subscribe, or share it with a friend.
Let's get started.
Hi, I'm Daniel. Welcome to Groovy English, the podcast where we untangle the knots in how we speak, write, and feel about language. Today's episode is all about a tiny, mighty enemy, second-guessing your English. If you've ever paused mid-sentence, stared at a text message for 5 minutes, or deleted an email draft because you weren't sure a phrase sounded right, this episode is for you. Pour a drink, settle in, and let's get curious about where that doubt comes from and how to silence it, kindly, smartly, and for good. Let's start with what second-guessing actually feels like. For many people, it's a jittery mix of hesitation, replaying sentences in your head, and comparing your phrasing to some invisible native speaker ideal. It's not just grammar doubt, it's performance anxiety. You might over-edit a Slack message, avoid speaking up in meetings, or swap a clear phrase for a convoluted one because you think the second sounds more educated. But here's the truth. This doubt rarely improves your communication. It usually buries it. Why does this happen? Part of it is social. We're judged on language all the time, consciously or not. Accent, word choice, and grammar become shorthand for education, intelligence, and belonging. If you've ever been corrected publicly or felt laughed at for a mispronunciation, that memory sticks. Another part is cognitive. The brain loves patterns and certainty. Ambiguity about whether a phrase is correct triggers a loop where you keep checking and rechecking until you get exhausted. There's also an information problem. English is huge and messy. Rules, exceptions, idioms, phrasal verbs, and regional variations. You can learn formal grammar and still be tripped up by casual speech. The gap between classroom English and everyday English is a major source of doubt. You're not failing at English because it's messy, you're responding perfectly reasonably to a messy system. So the big question, how do you stop second-guessing? The short answer is, build trust with your English through practice, patterns, and a few mindset shifts. But we'll unpack what that actually means, step by step. I want you to leave this episode with concrete habits, a few mental reframes, and quick exercises you can use before, during, and after you speak or write. First habit, adopt a minimum viable communication mindset. Before you obsess over the perfect phrase, ask, what's the core message? If your point is, I can't attend Monday's meeting, that's it. The perfect sentence is often the simplest. I can't make Monday, can we reschedule? Notice how you get the job done fast. Aim for clarity first, polish later if needed. This alone trims a lot of second-guessing. Second habit, prepare short templates for common situations. We overthink familiar contexts because we don't have go-to phrases. Make 4 or 5 templates, an apology email, a follow-up message, a meeting decline, and a brief update. Keep them short and reusable. When you're under pressure, templates save time and stop the "is this tone right?" loop. They're not robotic, they're your safety net. Third habit, practice speed drafts. Give yourself 60 to 90 seconds to say or type what you need. The goal is flow, not perfection. For speaking, record a voice memo and play it back. For writing, hit the draft button without editing. This trains your brain to trust the first version. You'll be surprised how usable most first drafts are once you stop hunting for the elusive, perfect word. Let's talk mindset. Reframe mistakes as data, not verdicts. When you slip up, ask a curiosity question. What did I mean, and why did that wording feel off? Instead of punishing yourself, collect the error as a clue. This turns mistakes into a learning loop. You can fix a pattern, like mixing up prepositions, much faster when you view errors as signals rather than shame. Another important mental trick is to separate comprehension from production. Often, people think, if I say this in English, they'll understand me or they won't. But comprehension is a shared responsibility. If someone looks confused, you can rephrase or give examples. Language is a collaborative tool. Let it be a conversation, not a performance where you must be flawless alone on stage. Now a practical one. Adopt a trust but verify approach. When you're unsure about grammar, make an educated choice and move on, but mark it for later. Keep a tiny notebook, digital or physical, titled Language Doubts. Jot down the sentence you hesitated on, then when you have 5 minutes, look it up and learn. This method stops looped hesitation in the moment but keeps the learning step alive. Let's try a breathing technique that helps when anxiety spikes mid-sentence. First, take 2 slow breaths. Say the next sentence shorter than you intended. Short sentences are stronger and easier to correct. Breathing resets your nervous system and gives your brain a moment to choose clarity over perfection. This trick is excellent for meetings, presentations, or phone calls. I want to address the fear of sounding non-native. That label can be a trap. Native speaker ability is not the goal. Intelligible, effective communication is. Some of the most persuasive speakers use non-standard grammar, regional slang, or strong accents. What matters is clarity, authenticity, and the ability to tailor your language to your audience. Embrace your voice. Let's get practical with pronunciation. If you worry about being understood, focus on a handful of high-impact sounds or words that cause the most friction. Work on stress patterns in multisyllabic words and the rhythm of short sentences. You don't need to neutralize your accent, you just want to be clear. Pick 5 words you often struggle with and practice them in sentences, not isolation. Vocabulary dread is another form of second-guessing. Should I use big or massive? My rule: choose the word that best fits your tone and the listener. If you want to be precise, pick the precise word. If you want to be conversational, pick the simpler one. And if you're tempted to use a fancier word just to impress, ask whether it helps the listener. Often it doesn't. Grammar worries, especially tenses and articles, can paralyze people. My tip: learn a small set of reliable defaults. For articles, start with a/ and for nonspecific, the for specific. For past events, use simple past unless you need to show an ongoing action. These defaults won't make you perfect, but they give you a solid scaffolding that reduces doubt. Now, evidence-based practice. Expose yourself to real English in manageable doses. Instead of trying to master 5 grammar rules in a row, listen to short podcasts, read one news article aloud, or transcribe a paragraph from a favorite show. Transcription is golden. You see how native speakers structure sentences, where they pause, and how they use discourse markers like so, actually, And let's talk about editing rituals for writing. When you finish a draft, take a 5-minute break if you can. Then read aloud. Reading aloud surfaces clunky phrasing and shows you where your brain was making leaps. Edit for one change at a time. Clarity, then tone, then grammar. Multipass editing stops you from rescanning the same sentence endlessly. Social practice helps too. Intentionally put your language out there in low-stakes environments. Post a short social update, join a casual meetup, or leave a comment in a forum. The risk of judgment is lower and the feedback is often kinder than your internal critic. Each small public act builds resilience and reduces future second-guessing. Feedback quality matters. Aim for targeted, kind feedback. If a friend says, "That was weird," ask what exactly seemed off. Good feedback tells you what changed the listener's understanding. Avoid people who correct everything with no context. Their corrections won't teach you how to communicate, just how to be self-conscious. Here's an exercise for conversation anxiety, the 3-sentence rule. When you want to speak, plan 3 sentences, a topic sentence, 1 detail, and a quick wrap-up. This structure keeps your thoughts anchored, makes you sound organized, and reduces the temptation to self-correct midstream. You can expand after the 3 are out, but get them out first. If you're second-guessing in emails, try a subject line first approach. Write the subject line, then the closing line, then the body. The closing line anchors the tone and purpose, so the body is just connective tissue. This little trick stops you from spiraling about the opening sentence because you already know where you're going. A lot of doubt is about tone. Are you too direct? Too soft? Too formal? The clarity first rule helps again. Write your message as clearly as possible, then adjust one dimension of tone. Make it more formal, friendlier, or more assertive. Don't tweak every adjective in one go. Tone tweaks are surgical, not messy. Let's discuss perfectionism. Perfectionism and language doubt are close cousins. Perfectionists delay or avoid communication because they equate risk with failure. Counter that by setting good enough standards. Ask, does this achieve the purpose? If yes, send it. Over time, your good enough will improve naturally as you collect feedback and see what actually matters. A practice many people underestimate is shadowing. Pick a short audio clip of a speaker you like, play a sentence, and repeat it immediately, matching rhythm and stress. This trains fluency, natural phrasing, and intuition about phrasing choices. Shadowing is a rapid way to absorb natural patterns without turning everything into a grammar lesson. I want to give you a small toolkit for on-the-spot fixes. If someone looks confused, try a clarifying phrase. Do you mean? Or, in other words, if your sentence trips you up, say, let me rephrase, and offer a simpler version. These micro-habits keep conversations moving and show confidence, which is often more persuasive than perfect grammar. Let's talk about internal critics. That little voice that says, "You said that wrong." It's not an objective truth. It's usually a habit formed by past corrections or comparisons. Challenge it with evidence. How many times did someone misunderstand you? Not many. Proud. Keep a log. For every time your critic speaks, note one successful communication you had. Over weeks, that log rebalances your brain. A big piece of this puzzle is community. Language learning and confidence building happen faster in supportive groups. Find a small conversation group, a language partner, or a workshop where people are explicit about helping, not judging. Commit to regular short practice. 20 minutes twice a week beats sporadic 3-hour sessions. Let's get tactical about listening tests. If you think you're not being understood often, record short conversations and check them. You'll find most of your fears are exaggerated. People fill gaps, ask clarifying questions, and rarely judge harshly. Listening tests demystify the social feedback loop and reduce anticipatory anxiety. I also want to recommend micro-goals instead of vague goals. Instead of be fluent, pick something like ask 3 questions in the next meeting or post 1 comment in English twice this week. Small, measurable actions reduce cognitive load and give you frequent wins, which is exactly what you need to quiet second-guessing. Let's not forget style and identity. Your English is tied to who you are, your background, experiences, and personality. Instead of erasing that, shape it. If you use idioms from your first language that add flavor and help meaning, keep them. Language is expressive. The goal is not to sound like a dictionary. It's to sound like you, clearly. A practical tip for writers: use the final line as your barometer. If the final paragraph supports the message and the closing line does the job, you're probably fine. Often, we rework openings because they feel imperfect, forgetting the whole piece holds together. Trust the end. If it lands, the beginning likely does too. Perfectionism can also show up in how we practice. If every practice session is a review of errors, it becomes joyless. Mix learning with curiosity and play. Try improvisation, storytelling, or creating silly scenarios in English. Play reduces anxiety and increases experimentation, key ingredients for confidence. For leaders or professionals, second-guessing can cost time and authority. If you find yourself over-editing decisions because of language fear, use delegation or written notes to capture your core thinking, then communicate the summary. Leaders communicate to move people forward, not to showcase flawless grammar. Remember that. Let's get into a quick role play you can do solo. Pick a common interaction, asking for a deadline extension, for example. Write the 3-sentence version, say it out loud, then extend it with 1 supporting detail. Do this twice in front of a mirror or record and replay. You're training both content and delivery, which reduces second-guessing in the real moment. Another powerful habit: limit your self-edit windows. For writing, set a timer: 10 minutes for initial drafting, 5 minutes for a clarity pass, and 5 for grammar. Constraints force decisions and prevent endless tinkering. You'll be amazed how much gets done when you set a boundary and honor it. Let's close the toolbox with a confidence anchor, a short phrase you say to yourself before speaking or sending. It can be clear first, say it, or message sent. The point is to create a ritual that interrupts the doubt loop and reminds your brain of your intention: to communicate, not to perform perfectly. Before we wrap, I want to share a mini story. A friend of mine used to obsess over written reports. Every paragraph took hours. She started the 3-sentence rule and template habit. Within a month, meetings were smoother, emails were sent faster, and she slept better. The content quality didn't drop, it improved. The difference was trust, trusting her voice and process. If you take away only 3 things from this episode, let them be these: prioritize clarity over polish, practice in short, targeted ways, and turn mistakes into data, not verdicts. Those 3 shifts shrink the power of second-guessing and give you momentum. You don't need to stop doubting completely, just make doubt less bossy. Okay, time for a quick 5-minute action plan you can start today. Step 1. Write 3 templates for common messages. Step 2. Record a 90-second voice memo answering a professional question out loud. Step 3. Jot 1 language doubt into your language doubts list. Do this daily for a week and notice how your hesitation loosens. Those tiny routines compound. If you want continued support, consider signing up for a short conversation club or partnering with a feedback buddy. Exchange 2 questions per week about phrasing and give each other targeted feedback. The social rhythm of small, consistent practice is the secret weapon against second-guessing. Another great option is to find a language accountability partner. This isn't necessarily someone at your level. They can be more advanced, less advanced, or a native speaker. The key is consistency. Meet weekly, set small goals, and check in on whether you actually sent the email, joined the meeting, or asked the question you'd been avoiding. Accountability works wonders for keeping you in action instead of in your head. If clubs or partners aren't available to you, create a self-led challenge. For example, commit to speaking out loud in English for 5 minutes every morning, narrating what you're doing. I'm making coffee, now I'm pouring the milk. It sounds silly, but it builds fluency in a low-pressure setting, and you start trusting your natural word choices more. Another exercise is parallel phrasing. Take 1 sentence and say it 3 different ways. I'm busy today. I can't take on more work today. Today's schedule is full. This trains flexibility. You realize there's rarely just one correct way to say something, which reduces that pressure to find the perfect wording. For people who work in English but think in another language, try short translation sprints. Take a phrase from your native language, translate it quickly without overthinking, then compare it later to a dictionary or native speaker version. This builds your first instinct muscle and teaches you how your natural phrasing aligns with real-world English. Let's also talk about journaling in English. Many people think journaling is only for personal reflection, but it's an excellent place to experiment without fear of judgment. Write a paragraph daily, then, only if you want, review it later for patterns. You may discover that most of what you write is perfectly fine, which can be a huge confidence boost. Another habit to try is clarity coaching yourself. When you feel stuck on a word or sentence, ask, how would I explain this to a 10-year-old? Stripping away unnecessary complexity often makes the message clearer, and it trains you to prioritize understanding over impressiveness. You might also explore context-focused practice. Instead of random vocabulary lists, practice English in the exact situations you second-guess most: work meetings, casual chats, customer calls. Write or rehearse common scenarios so your brain recognizes them as familiar instead of high-risk moments. Technology can help too. Use voice-to-text apps in English and see how accurately they capture your speech. This is a quick way to get feedback on pronunciation and clarity without involving another person, and it can reveal that you're more intelligible than you think. When doubt feels stubborn, combine language practice with body movement. Walk while you talk, gesture naturally, or stand up during phone calls. Movement reduces anxiety and helps your speech flow more freely. It's hard to be overly self-conscious when your body is busy. You can also use location triggers to build confidence. Assign certain places as English-only zones. Maybe your kitchen, your commute, or your morning walk. The physical environment becomes a cue for your brain to switch into English mode without hesitation, turning practice into a natural habit instead of a forced exercise. Music can be another powerful tool. Sing along to English songs you enjoy, even if you stumble over the words at first. The rhythm and melody help you internalize pronunciation patterns and natural stress in sentences. Plus, singing bypasses some of the overthinking because you're focused on keeping pace with the song, not on dissecting grammar. For people who get stuck on finding the right word, practice good enough phrasing. If you don't know complicated, say hard. If you can't think of investigate, say look into. Over time, you'll naturally learn more precise words, but you won't stall or lose confidence mid-sentence just because a single word escapes you. Another trick is to rehearse recovery lines. These are simple phrases you can use when you feel stuck. Let me try that again. What I mean is, or, in other words, they keep the conversation moving while you regroup, and they make you sound confident even when you're buying time. For professional contexts, learn anchor phrases for meetings, presentations, and emails. Things like, to summarize, here's what I recommend, or, my main concern is. These anchors help you jump in and out of conversations smoothly, so you spend less time worrying about your opening line. You can also challenge yourself with a no translation day. Commit to thinking and speaking only in English for a set period, even if it's just 30 minutes. This forces your brain to problem solve within English itself, which builds fluency and reduces your dependence on your native language as a mental crutch. For social media users, post in English once a week. It can be short, a caption, a comment, or even just a sentence about your day. Public practice in a casual space gives you both exposure and small bursts of confidence that carry over into spoken conversations. Don't underestimate the value of humor. If you make a mistake and laugh about it, you signal to yourself and others that language is a tool for connection, not a test you have to ace. This reduces the emotional weight of errors and makes you more willing to take risks in your speaking. If you're someone who freezes in real-time conversations, practice with time-limited speaking games. Set a timer for 60 seconds and talk non-stop about any topic. Your lunch, your favorite movie, your weekend plans. The time limit forces you to keep going without overthinking every word. Remember that confidence grows from evidence. Keep a small wins list where you jot down moments when you communicated successfully, a clear phone call, a meeting where you contributed, a compliment from a colleague. Over time, that list becomes your personal proof that you can and do speak well, even when doubt tries to tell you otherwise. And finally, reward yourself for action, not perfection. Every time you speak up, send the email, or join the conversation despite hesitation, give yourself a mental high five or a literal treat. Confidence grows from repeated proof that you can function and even thrive without having every word perfectly polished. Before I go, I want to normalize setbacks. Some days the internal critic will be loud and you'll hesitate. That's fine. The point is not to be perfect every day, but to build systems that bring you back to action quickly. Each time you speak or write despite doubt, you're training confidence muscles that last far longer than any grammar rule. Thanks for spending this time with me. If this episode helped, try one of the quick exercises I mentioned and tell someone about it. Sharing helps solidify learning. If you'd like a worksheet or the templates I mentioned, Send me a note through the show page and I'll put together a companion you can download. I'll leave you with a thought. Language is a living bridge between minds. When you prioritize connection, clarity, and curiosity over the illusion of perfection, that bridge becomes stronger and more joyful. Second-guessing fades not because it disappears, but because you've built a better route across. This is Daniel, and you've been listening to Groovy English. Keep experimenting, keep speaking, and don't let doubt steal your voice. See you next time, and remember, say the thing.
Your English is shining brighter by the minute. Hit that next video to keep leveling up your skills. Or dive into our other episodes for more secrets to talk like a pro. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share to join the Groovy English crew.